Once you, yeah. Now, when you click the link, it should allow you to go in.
Can't even find you. Where are you?
Okay. What about the most recent email?
Yeah, send it to me via email. Let's try it this way because it's saying that I guess because we are online, it's not picking it up. It's just giving me a circle saying that you're typing, but it's not moving forward. But on my phone.
Okay. Which email? Do you want me to still send it to the same one?
Yeah, that's fine.
Hey, technology is only good when it's working. All right. So, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to hang this line up and I'm going to get ready to send. I'm about to press send on this invite right now. You should see it in your inbox.
Okay.
Okay. And I know it's sending. Saying the invitation posted. And let's also put it in here. Okay. Okay, Carol, are you there? Hmm. Okay, I saw. How about we do this? Okay, so if you can hear me, Carol, then either type something or say something because I don't hear you at all. And typically you would show up in the broadcast. I don't know why this is not working. Okay. So Carol, if you can hear me, it shows that you're in, but for some reason there is no, okay, network error. All right. I will close this down and we will.
Okay.
Oh, there you are. Hello?
Okay.
Okay, now you're on.
Okay. Oh, because I was about to email you and tell you it keeps saying network error on your side.
Interesting, because it's on my side. All right, now that all of that is out the way.
I'm not touching anything. I'm just gonna
okay, good. All right. Okay, so now that we're done with all of that, I always say technology is only good unless it's working. That's it. So here's what I'm going to do. You have the outline that I sent you, correct?
I don't have it in front of me after all this time, but don't worry, I can work off the fly.
That's all right. That's all right. So what I'll do is no different than if you've done radio or anything else like that, right? And so I'll do a quick introduction and then we'll get right into the questions. And just so you know, from a prepping standpoint, once I kind of give your formal introduction, we'll kind of start with your backstory. So we'll kind of start with your corporate journey, and then kind of that what I kind of call like your light bulb moment where you figured out, you know what, I need to do something different.
Right.
So that's kind of where we'll start. All right.
Okay.
Awesome. Okay. All right. So, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for joining us today. I have a very special guest on the Way Forward podcast. As you know, every now and then I like to bring you someone who has substance, someone who can also ensure that what you learn from them is action-oriented, and more importantly, it is intriguing and push you to move forward in your life. So today, without further ado, I want to introduce you to someone that I got an opportunity to hear from a recent TED Talk, and I was so fascinated that through the TED Talk, I said, this is a person that not only I want to get to know personally, but I also want to be able to introduce to my audience on the podcast. So just imagine if you could be one of the people who has an international client base of executives, who knows entrepreneurs and business owners from around the world, who also has been on multiple different types of TV shows. Let me just give you a good example before I bring her on. So she's been in Madame Noir, Entrepreneur.com, TEDx, The Steve Harvey Show, CNN Money, The Daily Worth, and Essence Magazine. That's just like a small little bit of the things that she's been able to accomplish. She holds a degree in political science and international history from Hofstra University, so all of those in New York. You have a fellow person on the show today. And then also she's authored 5 different books. And the reason we're here to talk with her today is because she is the founder of the Confidence Factor for Women in Leadership global executive firm. Ladies and gentlemen, I want to introduce you and the world to Carol Sankar. How are you, Carol?
I'm wonderful. Good morning. How are you?
I am doing well. I'm doing great. So I am appreciative and I'm excited that you've made the show today. So here's what I want to do. Before we get into all of the things that you are currently doing, I want to back up a second and let's go all the way back to your corporate career when you were just working your job every single day, day in and day out, doing what you can. Talk to us a little bit about where you were at that time when you kind of had the light bulb moment that there was something else more that you could be doing to contribute to business.
Wow. Okay. So I'm going to say that I'm 19 years old. So that wasn't no, honestly. My corporate journey, it lasted long, but was not long at all. I graduated from college and I don't know exactly how to explain it. I just knew that I was not going to stay in corporate America long. I started to feel this burning feeling that I was working for people and giving away my intellectual capital to people who were not at my level. And it's hard to say it like that, but I'm being completely honest, not conceited. But I felt like I was subordinating my own academic credentials. I was dumbing down myself to be able to accommodate to get a check every Friday. And I worked in this law firm, and I think that this was a turning point for me. I took a job in a law firm out of pure desperation. You know, you need to pay rent, lights, gas, just the necessities, just food, ramen noodles, just the basics. And I took this job, and it was the life-changing moment that I needed. I took a job, and this woman really did not like me. I did not actually interview for the job. Actually, I interviewed for a paralegal position while I was in law school. At that time, I went to law school. I started law school. And I interviewed for a paralegal position with a particular attorney, and that attorney ended up leaving the firm abruptly. Don't know what happened. But the firm wanted me so bad, they were willing to hire me to answer telephones and take an intake, and I've never done this before. So I went and worked with this woman in this firm out of pure desperation. I needed this little $400. I have to pay my little bills. I got to get my ramen noodles and keep my lights on. And she used to curse at me every day. And I'm not a woman that long with in that respect, but she used to curse at me every day. She used to call me the F word and the MF word and the B word and put her finger in my face. And while I was at that job, I would interview for other jobs while I was at work. So during lunch hour, I would go to an interview. So I'd keep on half the suit. So I'd keep the pants of the suit on with another shirt and keep the jacket in the car with another pair of shoes. And every day I was interviewing. And I said, why am I taking mediocrity as my paycheck? I don't have to do this. I could do something that is rewarding. I can do something that's fulfilling, that will satisfy me and make me happy. And I remember I went on my last interview and I met with a woman named Mary Beth. I forget her last name. And I remember she had actually networking function. She says, "Why don't you start your own business?" And somehow I was like, well, I got to pay the lights and trying to do this mediocrity thinking, right? Trying to really keep on this treadmill. And subsequently, I went ahead and took another job way below my worth again, and the job was eliminated in a matter of days. And that was how the business really started. That was 2003. It was just seriously running into so many dead-end opportunities, not being able to work at my worth, not feeling I was valued, and not feeling like my contributions mattered. And in 2003, when my job was eliminated, I said, I'm not going back to work to be not trash. And so I never went back.
Wow, wow. So that's really interesting. And so being not only just a woman in a high-powered position and working for people, having the mindset to even understand that your intellectual capital was much more valuable than what people were asking you to do. I find that very, very interesting. So let's talk about then the culture of what it was like back then that you saw of being an executive woman, and kind of where it helped you guide you into this entire world of dealing with women on an executive level who are not just like running small, companies, but they're literally running like multi-million dollar organizations. How did you get there?
I got there by learning what I didn't. Well, I had people who I didn't want to work with for a long time, working with people who had a lot of excuses. I've gone through it all. So I went and I had the excusepreneurs, and I met with women who were in their own way. And I did all of that work, the grunt work. And I woke up one morning and I said, I want to work with women who are committed. And that was the only word I could find to define who I wanted to work with. And I really got there by saying that I have to stop minimizing my past accomplishments, because what I was doing was I was looking at my past corporate experience as something that women didn't want to hear about. But I'd worked with 100 companies. I've litigated and been a part of litigation for record-breaking settlements. Why am I minimizing that to now act like I could just help you get your PayPal link online? I'm really minimizing my skill set. I just knew after a while of working with people who I knew were not ready and were not committed, and I'm not minimizing them at all. It's just that there's some women who are in their own way, and this is just all people, men as well, but they're people who are in their own way, and they're okay with being in their own way. I just am not a salesman for pushing you out of your own way. You either want it or you don't want it. And I'm not going to try to be a salesman and say, come on, let's go. I'm not an encourager. So I had to really figure out, take your past accomplishments, make sure people know what you've already accomplished in life, make sure people know where you're going in life, make sure people know where you are, where you stand, and how committed you are to excellence. And that's how I started to really get into circles with multi-million-dollar women, so that I can be very assured that I can solve their problems and really kind of take them past the point of just being interested and being committed.
That's interesting. So here's then the follow-up question to that, because you have started this global piece and phenomenon that a lot of people are hearing about. Not only did you also just have a recent event, which we'll talk about a little later, but you talk about the confidence factor. And so just kind of share, what is the confidence factor, and is it more inspiration, or is it something more than just inspirational confidence?
It is much more than inspiration. I started the confidence factor. I'm a real estate developer. That's really what I do. That's my mainstay. That's the thing I love. That's the thing that if you shut off everything around me, if I could find nails, screws, hammers, and architectural drawings, that's what I want to do for the rest of my life. I want to retire with real estate on the brain. But in my industry, there are very few men. Very few women. There are very few men who understand why there are very few women. They're almost not used to seeing us in the room. So imagine every time you go to the permit office to get a simple permit to put up sheetrock, you're the only woman in line. Imagine you go to Home Depot to go get 24 2x4s, and you're the only woman in the hardware section asking for 2x4s. Imagine you're the only one pulling up in an F-150 unloading stuff. Like, it's the only thing to be the only woman in every sense of the room. And as this started to really become more of my reality, I wanted to know why were women not there, not just in real estate. I would go to business meetings for venture capital. I would go to investor relations meetings, VC meetings, pitch meetings, angel investor meetings for first and second rounds. Women were not there. If they weren't the receptionist or checking you in or the assistant to the man at the head of the table, they were not in the room. So I decided, I had read Lean In and it was great. And I'm not criticizing Lean In, not one bit. I thought when I read Lean In, there was a part that was missing. It's not about women leaning in. It's about what women do after they lean in. So the confidence factor was birthed out of figuring out, okay, you leaned in. Okay, your posture is in the conversation, but your voice and your value are not there. So I wanted to know, what does it take to get women to be vocal, visible, and increase their volume in the actual confidence realm? So that's how the confidence factor was birthed. It has nothing really to do with inspiration more than when you get your seat at the table, don't sit there muted and keep you and redact from the conversation, be all cute and pretty and showing your cleavage. It's about showing your value. It's a time for women to start understanding that the reason why we are declining in leadership has more to do with the fact that we don't believe that we deserve to be leaders and less about the opportunity being there. Sometimes you have to interject and push aside 2 seats to push your seat in there. And that's how I got into real estate. There was no empty seats at the table. I had to say, excuse me, push my seat in so I can be able to be noticed in the real estate arena. Otherwise, I'd be a real estate agent with a nice little badge on my side. And hello, this is a nice 3-bedroom. I didn't want to do that. I'm not that girl. I wanted to build. And in order for me to make that happen, I had to learn how to get in the room and add value. So that's how I birthed the confidence factor.
Wow, that's interesting. So here's what I want you to do, because our audience may have not heard your TED Talk, and if you haven't, we'll make sure that we provide a copy of that link below. But here's something that I want you to do. I want you to share this story that was a great example of what you're talking about right now, that you shared with the gentleman and the lady who came to you for coaching, and what happened as a result at the end.
So in the TED Talk, and this is something that really happened, somewhere in between 2010 and 2012, I wrote this book completely by accident as just more like a little manual of how to get started in real estate. And this gentleman read the book, and he literally called me because there was, of course, a call to action in the back of the book. It's a very small book, like 70 pages. And he calls me, he says, me and a friend of mine, we want to work with you. I read your book, and she read the book, and I know that you are the perfect person to get me started. And he gave me his backstory. I listened. It was great. And I normally don't take on clients in this capacity when, you know, there's so much that they needed to learn, but there's so much work he had already done. So I just assumed that they were at the same level. So I had an interview with her. I had an interview with him. I decided this was a good fit because the universe needed to answer this question: where are women? And this is my first woman real estate client ever. So we get on the phone just like we're doing right now. It was an online call. First day, everything goes great. He's asking questions. She's asking questions. The call is great. I'm like, yay, Carol did it. Okay. Day number 2, they both get on the phone, same time, 9 o'clock in the morning, same place. She's asking questions. He's asking questions. And I'm thinking everything is good. By day number 3, I'm noticing that she's asking a few kind of like day 1 questions-ish. Like she hadn't gone on to day number 3. And we don't have a lot of time together. He's on day number 3, ready for day number 4. By day number 4, she's not asking as many questions. He is plateauing in his decision-making power. I don't really work on Friday, so we didn't work on that Friday. By that Monday, she's on the call. She's silent. He's asking questions. Day number 6-ish, she's kind of out of it. By day number 7, she dropped out. And so I remember he had a private conversation with me where he described that he just felt that maybe she was intimidated by me. And then I had a private conversation, and she said, this is too much. It's too much. You're asking me to call people. You're asking me to write contracts. You're asking me to make $1 million proposals. I just don't think that I'm ready. And so by day number 7, when she dropped out of my own real estate coaching program that was designed for both of them, when I gave them the same material, same day, every day, for how many ever days, it didn't even take her 6 days to make a decision that she just was not up for the challenge. And to this very day, Christopher, she is still a receptionist at a real estate firm. This has been almost 6 years. She's still, hi, how are you? Can I get your coffee? To this very day. He has gone on, and we have partnered on deals. He's well over $15 million in assets. And she's still
Wow.
as a $15 an hour employee. It tells you where our confidence stands. So even though he comes into her office and shakes her hand and says, can I go see the CEO? She's never met the CEO because she won't ask for the opportunity. So it is a part of our elected procedure that a lot of women elect not to be leaders because of the fear of what leaders really have to do.
Wow. That story alone, I think, should be an awakening on both ends. I think for men, obviously, as leaders, to begin to scan their executive leadership team, but then also an alarming discussion and story for women as well, to begin to look at what are you really challenging yourself to do? What does the culture of that look like? And so, I think the other part of this is that I would love to get your insight on it. So then what are some of the hindrances to women executives from a confidence perspective in the lane that you talk about confidence?
I think some of the hindrances are women just don't think that they're worth it. Literally, it's sounds so simplistic to you, but complicated to us. When you don't feel like you're worth it, you don't ask for it. Whatever it is, whether it is a raise, whether it is an opportunity, whether it's a new office, whether it's more responsibility, when you don't think you're worth it, you don't ask. I think the second thing is women compare themselves to everyone. So as I'm sitting here having this podcast with you, let's say we were two executives going up for the same opportunity. I might say, what does Chris have that I don't have? He has a double master's. He has a double PhD. I don't have that. So I'm comparing myself to you. So I automatically come out of the race. I automatically redact my name from the calling because I think that you're more qualified. And then here's what we do as a result of comparing ourselves. We'll go back to school. We'll go get another certification. We'll go back into the educational treadmill. And then we are no more further ahead than you are. Instead of saying, what is my value proposition that I offer? Instead of comparing myself to Christopher, what I should be doing is I should be looking at what do I have that's more valuable than you? You may have 5 PhDs, but I have real work experience. I may come with blank, and I have to be able to present what I have exactly just in that way. And I think the third thing that women often do to actually take themselves out of the running is they have a lot of I can't sentences. I can't because I'm a mother. I can't because I'm a wife. I can't because the kids, and I can't. We have a lot of I can't. And I always tell women, I am a mother, I'm a wife, I'm a daughter. I have all the same responsibilities you do. But here's the difference between me and you. I just show up. And so sometimes I got to show up with the kid in hand. It's what it is. Sometimes I've got to show up and the husband is outside double parked. It is what it is. I have to find a way to, there's no such thing as balance. I wish we would stop having this stupid balance conversation. You have to juggle what you have. There have been several times I have taught at major conferences and my son is sitting right in the back. I'm not balancing. I'm just juggling what I've got. Childcare didn't come through today. Grandma didn't come through. Grandma didn't feel well. Kids in the back. Nice little, drawing book. You have to do what you have to do with the I can't sentences, because there's several times that I want to say I can't. But here's the thing. If I know that I'm elected to be a leader, I have to find a way to incorporate all the I can'ts, take the T off, and I can just figure out a better way to balance it all. There's no such thing as the balancing act.
That's good. That's really good. And I definitely think that will help our audience today. So one of the other questions I ask is, what are some myths about executive women in leadership that you think we've got to kind of expose and start to deal with?
Oh my gosh, come on, don't do this to me. We're nasty, we're arrogant, we're pompous, we're moody, we're snooty. I mean, those are just some of the good ones. We play in the boys club. We have a lot of different kind of misbeliefs about women executive leaders. That is actually not true. We're guarded. A lot of being guarded has more to do with the fact that we're always under attack, and there are very few of us that we can align ourselves with. You wouldn't believe the executive community of women is a very small community, and because of the fact that it's so hard to really figure out who is on your side and who's coming to you with something that doesn't really match the trajectory you're on, you have to be very guarded about what your expertise is. So I think some of the misconceptions are that we are hard to get access to. We're just disgusting people, and no, not at all. We are guarded, and you have to know that sometimes the only thing people want from you is access to resources, information. Instead of saying, how do I build relationships with you to learn how to get access to the corner office? So the misconception that there's a us versus them is a huge myth. No, it is, how do you build and foster relationships that will bridge the gap between the receptionist and the CEO? That relationship gap is where a lot of women are not trying to build a bridge to, because all they want to do is pick up the phone and say, I want to, and then they hang up the phone, forget you. Instead of, how do I start building this bridge? Because let me tell you something, if we as women do not learn how to build a bridge between and foster the gap between the higher level men and women and where women are right now, we're always going to have too many receptionists and not enough CEOs. And that's a huge problem, because we can't afford at $15 an hour to ball on a Mercedes Benz. You have to figure out, where do you need to be right now, and who do you need to contact in order for you to be able to say, I have 15 relationships that are going to be great mentors, great leaders, great advisors that are going to help me to get to where I want to be.
Wow, too many receptionists and not enough CEOs. I like that statement. I think that's going to go as the buzz part of our advertising for the podcast. That was great. So, last question I'll ask you, because I think this is where a lot of people may be listening to this, and there may be a lot of women who get fired up by hearing what you're saying. Mm-hmm. But what advice would you give to the new young executive leader woman who is looking to climb that ladder? Or maybe, there's a particular woman out there who's been working a particular career, and she wants to be able to bust the glass ceiling, so to speak, and she's looking at opportunities. What would you say maybe some of the first things that person should do? I love what you just said, is definitely learning how to bridge that gap. But what are the things that you say is good, tangible things that they can do right now to really take control and start to own the I can versus the I can't?
I say the number one thing that many of our young CEOs in training can do: get sponsors. I think we negate what sponsors are. Many women think are people who pay for your events. Not at all. Sponsors are people who are in your mentorship circle that will align you with new opportunities. These are your headhunters. These are people who will scout for you. These are people who will vouch for you. You must always, I don't care whether you're trying to start a business or you're trying to go to the next level of your career, you have to learn how to create the alliances of sponsors, people who will start putting a buzz in somebody's ear and saying, did you hear about Linda? You have to get people talking about you before you get into the room. And this is where a lot of leaders are missing, is because they don't have enough people talking about them before they actually knock on the door of leaders to be able to enter the room. You need a group of sponsors who are literally going to let everybody know that you are in the building and to recognize you and to pay attention to you. One of the things that I actually did before I left corporate America, I didn't even know I had sponsors. I had no clue until a woman called me one day, and she literally got on the phone with me. She got through reception, and in law firms it's very hard to get through reception without an agenda. She claimed to be a client of mine. I'm like, you're not a client of mine. And she says literally like this. She goes, laugh first. And I go, ha, 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 ha. She tells me her name. She says, I'm a headhunter and I've been watching you. I don't know how the heck she's been watching me. She said, I'm watching your movements. Now, she goes, say yes if you're willing to make blank amount of money a year. Yes. Say yes if you will come and join me for an interview just on the spot tomorrow night at blank. Say no if you don't want to work at the level where you are right now. And that was my first introduction to sponsors. People who you've shaken hands with, who you don't even recognize are paying attention to you. So young leaders, I have no problem with you on social media. I have a huge problem with the fact that you're not around people who will vouch for you at all times, even when you don't think people are paying attention. The work that you do must speak for itself. It must not be work that you're doing and speaking only for it. It must speak for itself and speak volumes for you.
That is powerful. So I think we can just shut down the whole show, because you have done a great job. But listen, Carol, thank you so much for joining the podcast today. It has been a pleasure. For those who are listening, there's a couple of cool things that we're going to do. Number one, as I mentioned, I will provide the links to her TED Talk. It was a recent TED Talk that is mind-blowing for 20 minutes of what she discovered and why she built the Confidence Factor program. She's also done tons of events. She just recently did an event where she had women all the way from even Australia coming into the city and being able to hear from her and learn from her about building that confidence factor. The other thing that we're going to do is there's a freebie as a part of this podcast. If you're listening to this today, there is going to be a download available for you, and it's going to be called The 5 Ways to Build the Confidence Factor in Your Life and Career. So if you are listening to this today, you will get access to that. That link will also be available below. So, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for listening. My name is Chris Williams, and I hope that this episode, God knows it did for me, but I hope it does for you, point the way forward. Everybody, thank you so much for listening. Take care. Carol, that was amazing. Obviously, you've done this before, so
I tried. I tried.
Absolutely, absolutely. Well, listen. So here's what's going to happen. So, I will begin this week with the editing, putting everything together, and then I will send you the final version before it is released. Now, it will be released on my podcast channel on next Thursday.
Okay.
So that's when it'll be released. But I've got, I'll actually, when I send you the email with the final link to the version, it'll have, you'll see the promo stuff that I'll be putting with it. All of the advertisement stuff. We'll be teasing a lot of different things as well. I'll be pulling quotes, and there'll be different things in there as well. So all of that information will be there. It'll be yours to be able to use just as much as I'll be using it as well. And then once it's released, I will be doing a video that'll probably be about 2 or 3 minutes that'll go out on LinkedIn exclusively. And that video will basically be pubbing the actual episode. Okay. So that way you'll see that, and you'll have that as well, and all of those different pieces will be there.
Perfecto. Perfect. I apologize about this morning, but I'm glad we got it done when we got it done.
That's right. That is all right. I had already moved on. I was like, well, maybe she'll just hit me back, because I was like, well, send the email and keep doing what you need.
Everything is on my calendar. Let me tell you something. We're all electronically driven. It's just
right.
that I can't get on. I just
That's
can't
right.
I don't know, but I apologize about this morning.
Well, how did the event go? Because I know that you were kind of scrambling the last 3 weeks and making sure that everything went well. Did everything go well?
It went so well. I mean, I slept for maybe 3 days just trying to recover from it. It was wonderful. It was literally awesome. It's probably one of the best events I've done. I've done a lot, but this was high quality. 40 of the top women. I mean, we were talking in 7- and 8-figure terms. That turns me on. It was like, wow. Oh, thank you, Jesus. No more than $3 talk. It was.
That's right.
So it was good. Thank you.
Well, listen, there's a couple of things that I know from the space and the things that you're doing that I am definitely trying to figure out. Okay. So as a keynote speaker, and like, so for example, I just recently released 2 of my online programs and courses. Mm-hmm. One of the things that I want to do is I actually do want to put on a live event.
You've not done that yet?
I have not done a live event yet. So I will only say it's just because I've been slow to the game.
Okay.
And so I'm very much aware that there's a couple of great reasons why doing a live event does well, financially, and also just from a building that base support as well. Mm-hmm. But I really want to do a really good live event. And so there's a couple of things that I'm trying to figure out. Number one, with the live event, mm-hmm. when it comes to how to invite and where to send invites and kind of grabbing, the fish in the pond, mm-hmm. that's one area that I'm a little gray in, because as you know, with the work that I do, I focus more on workplace culture, how to build those. And I also have an entire model that I take organizations and companies through on how to build that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So obviously from doing keynotes and doing conferences, there's a couple of speaker showcases that I'm hoping I'll be able to do over the summer. That's one thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
But what I'm trying to do is build even when I'm sleeping, I'm making money revenue, right?
Right. Yeah.
And a part of that I know comes from if I do live events, then also I build in the materials that allow them to go on after me, then I don't have to worry about the other stuff. I can do the other things while that is kind of building as an engine behind, the entire work.
Mm-hmm.
So how long did you really take to put together that entire event from top to bottom?
This event didn't take me long at all. This one that I just did last Friday must have taken me 8 months, maybe. But let me be honest with you. I'm gonna, tell my truth. I've had a failure before. So that event failure took me 18 months and still came out to be a flop. And I realized what it really was. Number one, you can't take too much time to plan an event. It's got to be the higher level you want to go, it's got to be very short term. The lower level you go, you got to, all day, all night. And that was where I messed up the first time. So the first time I may have had 80 people in a room. And I mean, they weren't at my level. There was nothing you can sell them. They couldn't afford anything, that whole thing. And so they were just not at my level. I took too long. So what it was is I dragged out the process with the marketing and the marketing and the marketing. Do it in a very short periods of time and be very specific with who you're inviting. Unfortunately, my sales page has already been deleted or else I'd send it to you. But you have to be very specific for who you're inviting. So I put out a lot of information on who this does not cater to. And once you put that out before you actually put out the teaser for the event, that gets all of the people who are going to waste your time coming into your room right off the table, so that it only gets interest by the people who know what you're coming for. But it has to be very short term. So even though I did it in 9 months, I only publicized it for 5. And so by the first day, I had almost the whole room already booked. And I only had 40 seats. So I had 22 seats booked on the first day. And then afterward, it was drips and drops because I raised the price significantly after the first day. And so the price also is another factor too. The low, especially here in Charlotte, be very careful. The lower the price, the more ghetto the folk. It is what it is.
Well, and that's the one thing that I have found. Number one, Charlotte doesn't host a lot of events like that. And I don't know why. And maybe it could be because, the Breakfast Club got everybody locked up. I don't know. But it's very rare that I will hear, oh, this big event is happening in Charlotte and it's, and hear the type of people. What I normally hear is DC, North Dakota, California, maybe even Atlanta, but I rarely hear like a really nice event is being put together. Like what you had when I first heard it, I was like, I've never heard that in Charlotte. And I've been here in 12 years.
Really? You might be right. I don't know, because ironically, the producers from WBTV came. I didn't even know they were coming. I looked outside and here they were.
Wow.
The mayor wrote me a letter saying she wanted to come, but it didn't work for her timing. But just knowing I got an endorsement from her, I didn't even know where that came from. So here's what you need to do. If you're really serious about doing stuff in Charlotte, you got to connect with the groups in Charlotte that really have the ability to do those things, which would be like, because you want to do workplace development. Oh my gosh, I wish I had the name in here. Arrowwood Road. There's a building on Arrowwood for the Employees Association. Oh my gosh, what is the woman's name? Elizabeth something. The Employment Association, the EOE is headquartered here in Charlotte. You might want to connect with her. Go right to her office. Her name is Elizabeth something. I'll look for it for you. It's in my car.
Okay.
She's probably the prettiest woman you're ever going to see, and she's the only woman at the top of the food chain in the Employment Association. Go in there, connect with her. Go to the SBA. I'm very hooked up in the SBA, so go to the SBA and also go into SCORE. Those are older individuals, but here's why you need them. They are from here. They've got more allegiances here. They know the people here. They know the network, and they know the good old boys club, and that helps you to get in a lot faster. They have meetings every Monday. They already had their meeting this morning. So they have meetings every morning. I think it's every Monday at 7:45. You got to go in there Just tell them you just want to hear what the SBA is doing. It's public information. Don't hand out your business card. The big guy in there that I personally love and honor and adore, his name is Sid Bernstein. You walk in there, Sid, hey, Carol told me to contact you. I'm having an event, da da da. He'll tell you all the. I mean, he's from here. He'll tell you, call Bobby, call Ann, call Carl. That's how you really get an event off the ground here. You got to connect with some of those older people. And then here's the other thing: you got to attract people to come here. So even though maybe 15 to 20% of my room was from Charlotte, the rest of the people I flew in. So meaning I told them, here's the 15 things you can do in Charlotte while you're here. Go to South Park Mall, go here, do this, do that. And so you're encouraging them to really, connect with people here, but the price has to be high enough that it warrants them to be able to want to get on a flight. Otherwise, you're going to be wasting time with the tire kickers. There's a lot of tire kickers in Charlotte.
Yeah.
I traditionally don't do Atlanta under any circumstances. I will speak at an event in Atlanta, but I will never put my good clothes on and hold an event in Atlanta. Atlanta, in our market, tends to, especially as people of color, tends to take us out of the running. I've done that and I've played that game, and it took me a long time to recover. Once they hear black folk, Atlanta, oh yeah, y'all going part of the Nene Leakes thing.
Right.
They don't allow us back. Then you have to be like, no, you have to do so much explaining to get back into the Charlotte market that it's not worth it for you to go to places like Atlanta. I also find some trouble in DC. I've gone and spoken at events in Baltimore. There's certain markets you just can't do it in. You have to encourage them to come to you and then speak so highly of the fact that they don't get your quality in Atlanta and in DC and in Houston, where at least they came to a very mixed city, unlike going to do stuff in the ATL.
So the lady down at the EOE, if I put a bug in her ear that I wanted to do an event around organizational development, do you think that she would, quote unquote, be a really good sponsor in order to help push and drive that type of event? She's
not going to even sponsor. You can forget about that. They won't sponsor you, but they'll definitely put some people in your seats. So the thing is, you need to be able to have a big enough event where you can give away some seats, because those are the people who will now retain you to come and speak in their organization when they're doing their main event, not the Charlotte event, but the big one.
Right.
You're gonna have to give away some seats to people like them in the SBA and stuff like that. You're gonna have to say, if I want 100 people in my room, 20 of those seats have to be with high key executives here. Like Sid Bernstein, he doesn't have to pay to do anything for me. Look, just come in the room.
That's right.
The caviar's over there. That's only for Sid. Nobody else.
That's right.
There's some things you have to be able to do, because the amount of people he calls on my behalf, it pays me 20-fold to have him there and get the best seat in the house.
Okay.
The same thing with Elizabeth. You got to be able to, engage her and and she's also a part of the SBA. I just don't know in what fashion, but you have to be able to engage her so she can make some phone calls on your behalf, because even though you may be thinking of it from these things don't exist here, it does. Unfortunately, they're very closed door and they ain't inviting you. You just have to know how to invite them to come into your space, and they'll invest in you, but they want to see you do it first.
Gotcha.
But it's time for your live event. Like, you've got to, it's not just financially rewarding. One thing that it does more than the money, it does help you to be able to have, like when you're getting ready to launch another product, even if they don't buy at your event, which I didn't sell anything at my event. I made more than enough money in the ticket sales. I didn't need to sell at my event.
And that's the thing I don't want to do. I don't want this to be an event where I'm selling a product at the end.
No.
Because one, I think just from the brain standpoint, when people go something and they get over delivered on and they didn't have to buy a product at the end, they feel like they got over. They just do.
No. I'm not sure about that, because I didn't want to sell. I didn't want to sell because it was in it. Here and choose now. Buy my $12,000 coach, and like I didn't want to do that.
Right.
But here's the thing: I now have a new audience that when I do, and I've already worked on it. When I do my next event, I already have pre-sold seats. I already have people who are putting people's ear for me, because my next event is in St. Petersburg, Florida. I already have 4 seats already sold, and I only have 15 available. So that helps me out a lot.
Wow.
And it also really helps for people to know that I travel. So what I'm really doing in St. Petersburg, I'm doing a small mastermind. And it's because I'm one of the keynote speakers at one of the HR summits. I'm just using the HR summit as a funnel to get there and selling out my mastermind that is going to be before I get on stage.
And I'm going to tell you, that is when the first person I saw do that was Dr. Will Moreland.
Mm-hmm.
And the first time I saw that, and he and I were on a blab one time. And the first time that I saw him do that, I said, that has to be the smartest thing I have never even thought about.
You have to.
And what's funny is so I have an event. I'm going to a technology conference in Minnesota. They're actually hosting it at Lead Pages, which is kind of interesting.
Mm-hmm.
And had I thought about it or been aware, it's like in 2 weeks, I would have put together something so that I would have had an opportunity.
Wait. You have time. 2 weeks?
You think so?
Oh, you have time. Hold on. Why didn't you call me before? You've got plenty of time. You've got to get on LinkedIn, and you've got to find people in Minnesota in the area you want to work in. Now, here's the thing. You won't be able to charge for it. Not yet, because unfortunately, it's too close to time. But why don't you build an audience in Minnesota so that if you ever wanted to come back, you get more money when you get back? So you get a diner. It's not a big deal. Get a little diner. There's always another broken egg in some other city, a library, a Panera. Get 10 people at a table, show off your skills, stand up, speak, do what you have to do, make it a 2-hour session, and then tell people, I welcome a one-on-one conversation later. I'm only here for 1 day. There's a speaker who did that here in Charlotte about 3 weeks ago. I don't remember the man's name. Literally, he just wrote me an email and said, I'll be in Charlotte for a day. I'm going to show you how to be able to increase sales in your book by 3,000%. Okay. No, I didn't even know him. We're not friends on LinkedIn, but
Right.
to get a free invitation to come and eat some hors d'oeuvres and chill out for a few minutes, you get in that room. And he said, even though I didn't charge you, he was talking directly to me. So even though I didn't charge you because I reached out to you late, he says, I'm about to make $10,000 in this room and I'm going to show you how. And he went ahead and did his thing. And he sure enough made his money. He made his money. You have enough time. You have to just connect with the decision makers in Minnesota so you maximize the time. Look, they're paying me to come to this HR summit. That's cool. I'm good with the little check. It's good. But if I can double to triple my investment by making sure that I sell out seats in the same hotel, in the room next door, I hit the stage at 4. I'm doing a workshop from 8 to 9, going back upstairs, sleeping, eating, and coming back downstairs. That's what I'm going to do.
Wow. Yeah. You know what? You're right. And I know that I have several contacts in Minnesota, because one of the companies, what's funny is when I got the phone call about this conference, one of the companies that I've been trying to get at is Best Buy. And so I've got a good friend who has a connection who used to actually work for the former CEO. And so there was several things, but again, in my brain, I was going, well, if I put something together, I'm like, well, it's only a couple of weeks away, and I at least want it to be given enough time. But you're right. I mean, all I got to do is just go out to LinkedIn, and I can pull at least.
No, don't make it perfect. I think as people, we think, well, I got to rent the hotel. It's got to be nice. I got to feed them. No, do it early in the morning or late in the afternoon or in the middle of the day for lunch. Just make it such that it's very short, brief, but you just have to get to the point. Once they get there, hey, my name is, this is what I do, da, 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 da. And so that if you ever have an event or if you ever have a need for someone like me, we can discuss how this can move forward. And then get 5, key tips on how to improve the employee workplace. And then you just give out 5 tips, ask some questions, and, provide some candy, some gum, whatever you want to do, and just move on. So you're not stuck in a place of, where do these events exist? Because here's what Chris is going to have a problem with. If Chris doesn't do this, when Chris has his event in Charlotte, those people are not coming because they don't remember you. Yeah, so this is how you get people from Minnesota now flying to Charlotte to come to your event, because they remember that you just invited them out to a diner for breakfast and you essentially sold them on the idea that this is what you do. So now they can see you in your fullness for 5, 6, 7 hours, however long you're going to do your event. And now they know what you're capable of, because that's all I do. I go to different cities. I create these events. I create the relationships for the events. And then I come back and say, I'm going to host it in Charlotte only because this is the money city. And so I make people know that I'm not it's not that because I live here, I host these events. I host them here because it's the #2 banking city in the world. You're not going to get as much venture capital outside of here other than New York. So I'm going to host it here so I can show you that the economy here is very fruitful for business. And I'm going to introduce you to those players in this area by letting you come from Minnesota all the way to Charlotte to meet the head honchos at blank. And that's how I put these things together.
That makes sense. That's definitely it. So I've got my work cut out for me this week because it's been something I've been thinking about a lot. So it's nothing but to do it. I got my little whiteboard back here, so I'll be whiteboarding it out.
Get that event together. You're going to Minnesota. I mean, literally plan out. If you could do 2 events, how many other days you're staying? Do 2, do 3. Even if you could do a small mastermind or something, just get some people to be able to connect with you and talk about you. But I don't ever leave my home until I know I have something going on in that place. And like I said, I invite people to come to my events and put them on a specific way because the price has to match what I let you get away with when I was in your city. So if I came to California and I said, you can sit in my seat for free, but it's going to cost you $1,100 to come to my seat in Charlotte. It works itself out. I get my investment back tenfold, but the events that you have to do, especially here, they've got to make financial sense. Like you've got to price it high. Like I said, my first ghetto event, 2014, won't forget it. Like every time I try to close my eyes, it comes back up like, wait a minute, I made it $177. These women were just, I want to lead. I want to be the leader.
Right.
Girl,
right.
Let me tell you, the main reason I say that to you is because one lady, so true, my God, she had a hand cream company that she made out of her kitchen. And she had no ingredients on the actual hand cream. And she was at the event. She paid her little $177, and she thought she was at the Carol Sankar event, right? And she handed this out to people, and one of my attendees, her hand turned blue, and it was
no.
And when I say blue, I'm talking about bluer than your shirt, and she was whiter than the white wall back here. And so she was standing in the event like this, and she kept saying, "I need to talk to you." So we went to the bathroom. We tried to wash it off. It won't come off. She had an allergic reaction to whatever was in it, but you don't know what was in it because there was no ingredient list. And I said, this is a failure times 20 because this is technically my fault, right? Because you're trying to support another business, you're an entrepreneur, and you give somebody something as a gift, right? And the woman pays for it. And in the event, she said while we were talking, her hands were turning, but she just thought it was like the cologne or maybe an effect or maybe the visual effect. It turned blue. That woman had to go to the emergency room at CMC on W.T. Harris to get a shot in order for her to get her hands to turn back the right way.
Wow.
So that's what I'm saying. The price reflected the person I had in the audience. Had that price been twice as much, she wouldn't have been able to afford it, and she wouldn't have been there, and she wouldn't have had a product in there. But once she did that, a few other people said it gave them all kinds of other stuff. But it was her product, and she felt like it was good, and it may smell good. But I was responsible for that. Think about that. Yeah. That could have taken me out of it. That's a legal issue. You talk about a legal girl with a legal issue. I was like, and here I am. She should have had her responsibilities, and dumb me, because the price was too low. So the ghetto crew came out in full force, thinking of what they were going to sell and trying to hustle everybody into whatever. And that's how like I'm saying, don't do low price stuff. Don't. Yeah. My event was $350, and people paid. They didn't have a problem with it.
Well, one of the people that I follow as far as live events, and he does a flawless job. I've actually written down his entire formula because I've kind of watched it and then reverse engineered it. Is Brendan Burchard.
Oh, I know him. Yeah.
His live events, that man could go on vacation the rest of his year. I mean, he is now obviously he's doing a lot of other things in between that. But here's something that I've been thinking about, because what I would like to do is do an annual event in Charlotte that can host like high ticket items like that, but more so make it so that there's more of a focus on what you're getting out of it, because a lot of times when the event starts becoming like 1,000 people in number,
it's not even worth it.
It's not. It's like now you're just motivating and nobody's really getting anything. What I would like to be able to do is to begin to host events like that, but like do it for just certain companies. So because we're number 2, then do an event for all the financial firms represented in Charlotte.
Yeah.
Do another one just for real estate. Yeah. Do another one for developers. Do another one, but every year be able to host an event that is so targeted that unless you play in that space, you're not going to get in. And then 2, they know that they're going to get something out of it that allows them to be able to go back to their organization. And now you've kind of got this, you got a more targeted, group of people that now you can stay in contact with long term versus saying, oh, just a free for all and we're just gonna make a big soup and hope that somebody gets something out of it. I don't want to do that. I would much rather create one where there's like maybe 2 or 3 speakers and it's more targeted to the particular industry and it has more of a value. And to your point, it's not some all day thing. It might be just a half a day deal. That's like on a Wednesday morning, right? But then it becomes more of like, because what I'm after is like the long game of building like traction where people say every year I got to be in Charlotte, right? But
you can't do this every year. You have to do it every quarter or every month. And the reason why is because if you're doing it industry specific, every quarter there's a new industry you need to target. If you're doing them half days, you need to be able to get high level retention out of it, meaning you're going for retainers. You're not going for just a conference. And so it has to be every quarter, every 6 months or something like that, so that people look forward to it. Because Brendan's thing is about doing consistent content. So he may do an event once a year, but he's doing events every month, like clockwork. Like Brendan is in our real estate space as well. So even though I know him from the motivational space, Brendan sits on the board of some of the biggest real estate investors I know.
Really?
So the things that you don't see is that a lot of times he's on the different real estate seminars talking about his investment portfolio because he does other stuff. And so what I'm saying is he does a great job of, if he's in the motivational space, he's got you. He's in the real estate space, he's got me. If he's in the leadership space, he's got such and such. So he's doing a great job of that. And that's what you have to do. You have to do them consistently. And so the live events will help, but it's not only the live events that will help, it's the work you do after the live events that are going to help. It's I don't do discovery sessions and all that other flim flam nonsense. I don't do all of the consultations. It's the real work that I do afterwards that makes me money. So it's after the event, you want to connect with me, you want to talk to me, I'm going to be in whatever it is, booking VIP days. Those things really are the catalyst for what I do next if I'm going to do anything. And I tell people when I'm not working, I'm like, June and July, you don't even ask. It's just not going to happen. I try to be a mother around those times. I just want to go to the park with the kid and, spend time with him since he's home. But then when I'm ready to go back to work, at least people know, okay, Carol doesn't work June and July, but come August, I'm ready. If you're ready, this is what the commitment will be. But this will be the commitment from the event that you were at in May. And so we booked the commitment in May for August.
That's good. Makes sense. Cool. Well, listen, this has been fun. I will get working on this week and I will send you, I think for the PDF download. So I will send you over the template that I created for, and I think I can, do I still have it up? I do. So it's just called the 5, matter of fact, I can show it to you now. I keep forgetting I can do a screen share on this thing.
Yeah.
So let me show you what I've created. And this is kind of the start. Now there's already some info attached to it that don't worry about the typing in there because that's from another one that I'm doing with Mario later today. So I'm interviewing Mario Armstrong from the Today Show at 2:00 today.
Look at you.
So that little title screen there is going to be what will go out like on Twitter. It'll go out on different pieces like that. And this is going to be kind of our lead magnet to drive traffic to the podcast.
Okay. Oh, that's nice. I like this.
So what I want is your pieces to go inside of the 5 ways to create that culture of confidence.
Okay.
So whatever you want to contribute to it, if you want to contribute 1, 3, or 4, or you say, hey, here's a couple of things I want to give to people, feel free to do that. And all of this will go as a part of the marketing and everything else that'll go out. And so when I send you like the final email, it'll have the podcast link, all the marketing materials that if you want to use them, even if you want to, piggyback off of them, whatever you want to do, you'll have all of that at your disposal.
Okay, perfect. Look at you with all this perfection. I love this. Okay.
Hey, I try to make sure that it's good for the audience, but then also too for the people that come on. So I used to actually do radio. So I enjoy this kind of stuff because but I like to make sure that people walk away with something, not just, oh, I heard something great. You heard something. Now what are you gonna do with what you heard? So, so I'll make sure that all of that stuff will be sent over. So feel free as you come up with a couple of those different items to add inside of that. Just send them over by email. I'll put them inside of the final PDF and then I'll forward it over to you, and it'll be kind of packaged all in one good piece for you to be able to utilize.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. I'm honored.
No problem. No problem. Well, listen, I appreciate the time. This has been fun. Let's stay connected. I'm definitely gonna start working on Minnesota this week. Now that
like today,
like literally, like I'm sitting here now. I'm like, I need to get on this whiteboard. I need to put some stuff together. So I'm gonna start working on that. But keep me posted if there's anything that you know of where I can definitely be a help to you, and feel free, reach out.
Same here. Same here. If I find anything, I'll let you know.
Absolutely. All right, Carol. Thanks.
Thank you.
All right.
Bye.